Well, good. That's cleared everything up, hasn't it? Let's talk about Newcastle. Hello there, folks. Welcome back to an episode of Boston Boys with me, Dr. Ben GFM. And, well, the reaction on yesterday's video was a lot. You've seen the poll, 52% to 47%. Doesn't add up to 100, so I don't know what's making the poll. But nearly 2,000 of you got involved and voted, and the majority have gone for no, do not move. But with a 5% gap, I do think it's something we should talk about. I think if it was a clear 60, 70, 80%, it would be an obvious thing to just say, okay then, we stick with what we've got. But it wasn't a huge gap, and we talked about it very briefly. It was at the very end of yesterday's episode where I referenced it. So I think we should go over our options. I think that's important. Also, it gives me a chance to outline the plans for what the series were all along. Now, a lot of people are watching this thinking, Ben, what, you're having one tough season, and all of a sudden you want to throw the towel in. And not exactly that, but partially that. There's an element to that now, which is very strange, because I never thought this would happen. Our rise up the divisions has been far more rapid than I ever thought it'd be, and I don't know, all of a sudden my expectations, as I think probably fan expectation, would have changed quite a lot. Although, from what's clear from the comments at least, that the viewer expectation is you're enjoying the struggle. You want to see it be a challenge and be difficult. And I do think that while we would keep that with Newcastle, it certainly wouldn't be the same as it is here with Boston. My fear is, though, a little bit, that last year was our best chance for a few seasons. I've no doubt that in a couple of years we could get ourselves up towards the promotion challenge again. And you never know, towards the end of this season we could go on a run. If we do the complete opposite of what happened last season where we collapsed, there's every chance we could get into the playoffs. But I think the Newcastle job offer, they're 10th in the Premier League. It's the biggest offer we've had throughout the entire series. There's been probably 20 or so job applications, most of which I don't show you because they're not relevant. But when you have a big dog like Newcastle, a team that currently are in the news in real life as well because of the Rafa Benitez sacking, suddenly I was like, maybe we should talk about this and discuss it. I think that's a good thing to do. I think sometimes completely ignoring some of the offers that come through. You've got to remember, this isn't like, I'm not dedicated to Boston other than that I was born there, and they're the series name, and it's Boston Boys, and that's the series, and lots of you are signed up for that series. But there'll be some people thinking, do you know what? Yeah, we've never seen you do this before. We've never seen you have a club for nearly going on, eight years now, and then switching it up and going somewhere else and taking the step up the football ladder to a side like Newcastle that also have black stripes. I think that's to be noted. And I do fear a little bit with this Boston save is that not necessarily the save, but the team is that to get into those top few places now, teams coming down from the Championship are quite good. And battling through those sides is going to be challenging, not just because of the players that we've signed. Yes, maybe I've made some silly signings with Vidal and Allen, although I didn't actually see them as silly signings. Same with our spinner. I think he's probably had improvement on what we've got. He'll get us through a season. And I sort of bought Vidal and Allen to be part of that promotion push. And after last season, I thought it would be really possible. Of course, form recently hasn't been so good, especially over this. This is the wrong season. Hasn't been so good. You can see there that is incredibly patchy form over a winter period. And of course, there's part of me thinking, is the grass greener over at Newcastle? You never know. So I do want to look over Newcastle and not necessarily sell it to you, because it's not a case of so I saw people saying, your heart's clearly not in this. I still really enjoy this save. I wouldn't upload it I wouldn't upload it if I didn't enjoy it. It's not that sort of thing. You've seen saves this year, AFC Wimbledon, I could see people went into it. So I stopped it and we started something new. And I don't feel like that with Boston at all. So everyone thinking, he just wants to start something new. That's not the case. I just think taking us on a different avenue and a different journey could be exciting. And there's still an element of me that thinks that maybe we could do that. But again, I am willing to listen to what you think. I don't necessarily feel like the project would be over. I feel like it depends how we're looking at it, right? Are we doing this project with Boston and are we now invested in Boston? Or is it me as a manager taking Boston or taking myself, my own career, to a different part of football, being that the Premier League, missing out the Championship, missing out this League One struggle? Do we want the League One struggle? Do we want the Championship? I don't know. There's lots of different possibilities with that. I'm asking questions. I'm not trying to provide answers necessarily. But I do think, as I say, we looked at the Newcastle interview and it was like, the interview. It was worth noting very off the bat. Mike Ashley, not part of Newcastle anymore, but Newcastle's squad is something we didn't feature or look at yesterday. And I do think it's worth having a little gander at because it is quite interesting. Now, of course, there is an element to this as well. People will be going, he's not been offered the job yet. He's been offered an interview, Ben. All right, we know how Football Manager works. You've not been offered the job. So what I think we'll do is we'll do the interview, and we'll then see if we're offered the job. And that is going to be partially what today is. What we'll do actually first is we'll do the interview first. Or do we look at the club first? Let's look at the club first, then we'll see what we're interviewing for, right? So overall, since the sort of the world that is our Football Manager save began, you can see they started the season off 9th, 12th, 16th, slipped a little bit, 16th again, 7th, and then finally 9th, currently sit in 10th position, and potentially unfairly have sacked their manager, Gary Rowett. Previous to that, they had Andy Scott for a period of time, Craig Shakespeare has been doing assistant roles, and also they had Eric Ten Hag, who took over from Rafa Benitez. So they've had different people in charge at different times. Benitez was there for nearly 5 years, which will probably surprise a lot of you. 2020 was the time he finally left the club, and a few players are still there that you'll recognise as Newcastle players today. I guess the biggest one for me is probably Jamal Lascelles, who is here somewhere. My eyes are deceiving me. Right centre back, there he is. That Jamal Lascelles is still a very, very good defender, even at 31. I think looks sensational. Like, he's really, really very good. And again, some interesting players throughout the side. I think an interesting way to look at it sometimes is who's on the big contracts. Who are these bigger boys they've got on the big money? Now, Luke Shaw is, of course, a name that will be familiar to a lot of people. Left back at Manchester United, formerly Southampton, England international. He's on the most amount. We've got then this guy, Dutch youth player, of course, that Origin as well. Very good striker. Ayoub Dijkman, I guess you'd say it like that, like Virgil van Dijkman, I guess it would be. So Son Heung-min is there from Tottenham, has joined the club for £12 million and has been a pretty much of a mainstay for the last couple of seasons, as well as lots of other names that I'm sure you recognise. Almiron is still there as well, Newcastle fans. I'm sure you'd be pleased if that was the case. Malcolm, of course, the youngster. Ander Herrera is a name you may well have noticed as well. Harvey Barnes is there, of course, a really hotly rated winger out at Leicester at the moment. There's some really interesting players. Daryl English as well, young English striker that might prove to be an absolute world beater. Like there's a lot of interesting talent there, and again, value-wise, there's some big names. Bareka is there again, a player that will be familiar, left back that lots of people will know, I'm sure, as well. So there's a lot of potential with this squad, right? And at the same time, they're quite aging in terms of, if you look at the ages here, look. It's like, if you look at the halfway mark, 28 years of age, it's definitely an older squad that maybe needs to be revolutionised by myself. Whether I'd have money to do that, I guess we'll maybe find out in the interview, or if we're offered the job long term. But there's a lot of young, exciting talent as well, a lot of young English talent in this team too. So I'll be curious to see, if we were to take this job, what we could do with Newcastle United. The Premier League table is, as you probably expect, the top 6 are the top 6. That tends to be the case on Football Manager for many, many years. If you saw my experiment on that, you'll know even with the transfer embargo, they tend to stay up there for a long period of time. So, as I say, there's lots to quite like about Newcastle, but is it the right move for us? Is this sort of thing where maybe we do things with Boston and then we come to a Newcastle sort of after we've won a Premier League with Boston? Now, who knows? Again, asking questions, not really providing answers. And I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know if by the end of this video I'm going to say, let's do another poll. This is not Brexit referendum time. I just think the discussion in the comment section is really interesting. I think a lot of the discussion was about that I should stay. And I think there are pros and cons to both sides. Some people will suggest that we should do, I've seen it on Twitter as well, that we should do a Boston save and a Newcastle save and have sort of alternative realities within the both. And I think that would get a bit confusing. I don't think necessarily I would enjoy doing both either. So I'm going to rule that out as a possibility. But let's do this interview. Let's see. As you can tell, this is quite a Newcastle-based episode. But welcome, Doctor. Thank you, Derek Walton. I'm going to talk to him about the possibilities. Obviously, Boston have allowed me to do this. That's good of them. You've only so far... I'm interested to see as well how I'm viewed across football. Like, my relationship with the media, I suspect, won't be good. It rarely is on Football Manager. If you do the press conferences, every single one, you have my respect. But you've only managed one team so far throughout your entire career. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, it shows loyalty. This episode doesn't show a lot of loyalty, but it does show loyalty. I've shown tremendous loyalty during my career and would consider that amongst the most positive traits to have as a manager. I'll say that. It'd be quite a change for you if you were to leave your current job to come here. Are you confident of handling such a big job? Now, recent form's not being good, and I don't know whether and I'm handling big players now with big personalities, and I'm not doing a very good job. But I'm going to say I'm ambitious. I want to work at the very highest level. I want to be given opportunities such as this one to do. I'm really interested to see how Boston fans and board handle this as well. I think the whole thing is quite interesting because you've got to think as well realistically, right? If this was real life and you're the Boston manager and you've been there for 7 years, and Newcastle United come around and offer you an interview at the very least, you're probably going to consider it. Like, Newcastle are a big club in England, remember. You're currently underperforming at Boston United. They know that, which is annoying. Is this the case if you're looking to jump before being pushed? He's a little bit too intuitive for my liking. I'm going to say I hope you look at the bigger picture rather than focus on those issues. I think that's wise. We receive a large amount of media attention, and your media handling has been dubious to say the least. Why is that the case? I'm just going to say, do you really think it matters? Because I genuinely don't think it does matter. I just have to collect some garden furniture from downstairs. Sorry about the pause. You didn't know, I cut it. You had no idea. You have previously been embroiled, that's harsh, in media controversies. I don't think I necessarily have, citing your inability to cultivate a strong dressing room. Sorry, I'm struggling to read this. And how would he know? That's my real issue. To cultivate a strong dressing room atmosphere. What can you say to address our concerns about that happening here? Newcastle, having to go at me about my I'm annoyed, viewers. I'm visibly annoyed. It's giving me the option to say it happened a long time ago. So I'm going to say it just happened a long time ago. We're really looking for someone capable of taking this team to the next level. Can you make that a reality? I've got to be like, yeah, of course I can. I've got to, shoulder chest out and all that, We would like to know, when do you intend to establish yourself as the club's manager? Are you able to take charge now, or do you need more time to join the club? Now, that is interesting. Of course, I have the options of I'm happy to take charge immediately. I prefer to see out the season at my current club before joining, or I prefer to take charge at the end of the season. I feel it would be best for the players if I were able to have that time together to prepare for a new campaign without the previous one impacting upon it. I don't really know what to say. I think if I were to join, then it would be at the end of I'd want to finish the season at Boston. I'd want to finish the season. Yeah, I would. I want to finish the season at Boston. As part of the recruitment process, we are willing to allow you to make changes to our backroom staff. I'm not going to propose any of those. Would you be willing to sign a large number of high-profile players if I was to get the job? If you want me to. Are there any job aspects that you would like to be judged upon if you're appointed as manager? I've no philosophies. It's obvious. There's no philosophies. A few little bits there as well. I mean, nothing that's massively, like the wage bill is that's pretty mid-table actually. So I guess that's relatively high, but it's not really. In fact, we can look at that, and they're spending the 11th highest amount. So they're probably performing slightly above expectation, but obviously not if they're sacking managers. I mean, at the present time, there are no expectations, etc., etc. Okay, yeah, that will make sense. Are there any more requests that I want you to consider? No, it's okay. No, there aren't. All right, that just about covers everything. We'll see. That covers just about everything. We'll go away now and review the process before determining who becomes our new manager. Good luck. We'll be in touch soon. So, of course, throughout all of this, viewers, I might not get the job. I might not be approached. And this whole episode, look, I think, let's say we're not approached, right? And we disappear from the radar of Newcastle United. This is a conversation we could be having again and again and again. So to have one episode on this and talk about the possibilities and where we stand in the series and things like that, I think it's a good thing. I think this has been, I feel better about talking about it to you. We've never really done episodes like this. I've never thought, like people said, oh, you never did it through Thames. Well, Thames was always going to be like a one club, let's see what we can do with a fully created club. To leave a created club, I think is slightly different because that is already an alternative reality, whereas Boston are a real team with real players, real fans and all this. And it's slightly different. I mean, I say this, some of you have got Thames shirts and mugs at home, so there are real Thames fans out there, bizarrely. FM20. Thames might be seeing you again. Just drop that in there. Just drop that little bombshell in the middle of a Boston episode. So we continue forward. We've got Millwall. I mentioned I've not played since yesterday, by the way, to be clear. And Coventry as well. And again, it's interesting to see what Newcastle United will do. And then it comes back to me. What will I do? And I'm not really any clearer. I think the best thing for all of us, weirdly, is for them to go with someone else. Because then it takes it out of my hands, doesn't it, really? Who's the favourite for the Newcastle job? The favourite is Andre Villas-Boas. Remember him? Berbatov's going for the Wickham job. Just curious to see. So I'm not the favourite. Villas-Boas is the favourite. He's currently the Watford manager as well. So he's certainly better placed than I to take that job. He's having a very similar season to Newcastle, it must be said, as George Cantrell picks up an injury. I forget that I've got a team here to worry about. I feel like this episode, we have to, whether I have to sort of play the Millwall game and tell you what the result is, we need to know what's happening with this job thing, don't we? We need to know where we stand in all of this. A few people suggesting, by the way, this will affect the players quite a lot if they know that my attention is diverted to the northeast. Well, there is a conclusion. I'm unsuccessful with my Newcastle interview, and that was potentially because I said I wouldn't be able to take the job straight away, whereas Martino has gone in there immediately. And my loyalties to Boston then have proven to be, well, I did an interview. I don't know. I guess I'll let you speculate on what I would have done had I taken it. I can allow you to speculate because I personally have no idea. I think there were positives to both. I don't think within the series where I take one team, whether that have been Spal or others, and of course I didn't say this would be a journeyman. I just thought the possibility, it came at an interesting time, and it's something we should talk about. And hopefully you can respect and be a part of the conversation along that. And hopefully it's made the series. Like, the little narrative now of that we nearly went for that Newcastle job, I think it's quite nice. I like that. When we face them in the future, that'll be quite exciting. Of course, with the boys here at Boston, we're trying to get out of the mire of mid-table. It must be said again, 7 points off the playoffs with about 11 games to go. In fact, not about, exactly 11 games to go. It is possible. I revert back to last season, the run-in last season, we absolutely collapsed, frankly. And if it turns around, you turn some of these draws and losses into wins, and we do that at the back end of this season, there's every chance. There's some tough games coming up, the likes of Walsall in there, Norwich, as well as some other big sides that are sort of vying for those playoff spaces. And after the 4-0 demolition at Bury yesterday, things are looking a little bit tense. I'll join you tomorrow then. We'll see how we respond after this Newcastle and Millwall and Coventry will be the 2 games, or I might even do Millwall and Coventry, it makes sense, or maybe even Coventry and Walsall. You'll see tomorrow. We love with care then. That's going to bring this to an end. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation, and then you're a part of it in the comments too. It's nice to see. It was really pleasing for me to see how many people are engaged in the series. So of course, if you're watching these videos and you've got the option to like it, please do, and we love with care. From me, that's Spencer. Until next time, goodbye. This was fun. I really enjoyed the conversation.